So we get an opportunity now to look at a new month. Welcome to June. You know, June is seen as the month of of many occurrences. You know, graduations happen in June in large parts of our country. Father's Day happens in June. Later on, we'll be celebrating birthdays in June. Juneteenth also happens in June, and we'll be hearing more about that later on this month as well. And all sorts of things. Even in our race consciousness, when they talk about June gloom in Southern California, where our clouds, you know, where our skies are cloudy and gray sometimes. I know that it has happened earlier and earlier, so they started saying May gray and June gloom. But either way, the weather is absolutely gorgeous and beautiful here in Southern California, and I'm hoping that it is that way where you are tuning in from. What I wanted to share is just our new theme for the month. As we are looking at timeless wisdom and evolutionary vision, this month we get to explore that annual theme by looking at the soul's call. So we're really going to be diving into the soul's call this month. What is our soul calling us forth to be and to experience? And today we're looking in particular at push by pain. And the outline for today's talk was written by my dear friend and a practitioner, Tracy Brown, who's been just a major part of my life through Centers for Spiritual Living. And I want to start off from the end. And by that, I mean, I want to start off with this quote that is by Tracy Brown, but it actually speaks to the end of my talk. And Tracy Brown is quoted here saying, "Pain can be your motivation for a breakdown, a breakup, or a breakthrough. What do you choose?"
Nice.
A breakdown, a breakup, or a breakthrough. That pain can be the motivation for one of those three breaks, but something's gonna break. And anytime I've thought about a break usually does hurt, and it hurts indeed. What we're looking at here is this idea of pain and how pain is a motivation. Lots of times we as human beings try to avoid pain as much as possible. I know that it has been quoted, it is better to love and lose than to never love at all. And that some people will avoid getting into loving relationships because they are afraid of the breakup or afraid of losing that love and having to go through the experience of the pain of losing that person that you love or that breakup or whatever the case may be. But I'm wondering, for us, now that we are emerging from COVID, now that we are emerging to a new way of living and a new way of being, how is it that we are being pushed by our pain? Being pushed by the pain, that pain, I can just imagine pain and being that pushing and it's kind of like, no, you want to stay stuck, you want to be still in it, but no, it just being pushed by the pain, whether it's emotional pain or physical pain. Growth is about pain. We've all heard the term growing pains, and there is indeed physical evidence that when we grow, that we're actually experience the body aches of growth because we are stretching beyond where we have been. And so it is as well with our emotional, mental, and spiritual growth, that it is all there's pain related to all of it. Now it's interesting because many of us again want to run from the pain. Who here says, "Oh, pain, sign me up. I want to experience pain. Sign me up. Make me first. I want to go in the front car for this roller coaster ride of pain." I see many people shaking their heads. No, no. It's very, very interesting that it hurts so badly, whether it's our emotional pain, mental pain, physical pain, that we avoid it as much as possible. And yet it is what is necessary for our growth. I'll share with you a quote from The Science of Mind, where Ernest Holmes says, "You have within a power that can overcome every obstacle in your experience and set you safe, satisfied, and at peace, healed, and prosperous in a new light and a new life." So what's interesting for me is that, what this quote is actually speaking to is that here we are avoiding pain as if it is avoidable, and yet we have this power within us that can actually overcome such a thing. So it's kind of like if I have a get out of jail free card, right? I have this card in my pocket, get out of jail. Why am I avoiding jail? I mean, yes, of course, in all terms, nobody wants to go to jail, but like, why do I avoid it when I already have a get out of jail free card? Why do we avoid pain when we have this get out of pain free card? When we recognize and know that pain is what is necessary in this human realm for us to experience the spiritual growth and unfoldment that is necessary to live out our full life. It would be like a rosebud. I love flowers, and when I think about a rosebud, I think about how this rosebud must unfold, how it has to begin to let go of its tightness. How many of us, sometimes live life real tight? I know that in the past I have, and maybe not in maybe even in the recent past, not too long ago, but just like being so stiff and rigid, and it's got to be this way, and I experienced the pain of the being rigid and not being flexible enough and not wanting to let go enough because I'm trying to avoid pain. I'm trying to avoid this or that particular thing happening. And yet I have this get out of pain free card that guarantees me safety, security, knowing. And that is when I'm steeped in my spiritual practice and I'm experiencing emotional or spiritual growth pains, these growing pains, these situations that I'm being pushed and sometimes shoved in which to grow in. When that pushing comes, when that shoving starts to happen, is only because I'm resisting, and the pushing only happens because I'm resisting and resisting and resisting. But I have this get out of pain free card in which I can just enter into spiritual practice, recognize the one power, the one presence, the one life, actually seek to know seek to understand, seek to be released from the resistance in order to live fully, and in order to then a little more graciously and joyously allow that rosebud to unfold. Yes, rosebuds are beautiful. Rosebuds are beautiful, but they're tight. They're tight, and they haven't necessarily revealed their beauty, their full beauty, their full bloom, their full blossom, until they go through that growing pain, through that stage of just of just that release, and being allowed, as Dr. Michael Beckwith says, pain pushes until the vision pulls, and that vision that just pulls me into my greatness, into my allness, to be pulled by the vision of me living my happy, joyous, and free life. Una vida plena y alegre, right? That joyous and that freedom. But unless we are willing to actually see that pain is the fertilizer, if you will, is that thing that is absolutely necessary for us to reveal our beauty, it is important for us to recognize that we could continue to avoid pain, or we can begin to allow the pain to grow us. Let's go back to checking out an additional quote out of this thing called life. Ernest Holmes says, everything that is wrong in your experience, whether you call it pain, sickness, poverty, or unhappiness, is a denial of the allness of God. Whoops! In your face. Oh, that one is a little bit harsh. Ouch. Okay, Ernest, back up a little bit. Everything that is wrong in your experience, whether you call it pain, sickness, poverty, or unhappiness, is a denial of the allness of God. So here I am, experiencing the doubt, the fear, the despair, the depression, the anxiety, the angst, the lack, the limitation, the pain, the sickness, the poverty, and what Ernest Holmes is saying is that we experience that because we are in denial of the allness of God. Bertha on Facebook is saying, word. She went back retro, like word, like, okay. Thank you, Bertha. Yeah, oh man. So wait a minute. Again, my get out of pain free card is to then recognize the allness of God, and that allness of God is right where I am. And that pain, this is actually, it's the little slap on the booty. Go ahead, keep going. It's that push of pushing, like, don't get stuck here. This is not my allness, if you will. If you're imagining this indwelling power and presence simply ushering you along, don't hang out here, don't tarry long, that pain is pushing you into the fuller expression of life. I follow Muji on YouTube, and Muji speaks about pain as it being something that's necessary, but in essence, how do you guide someone into recognizing that the cause of pain is actually our own resistance to our growth? Because unlike Ernest Holmes, who just kind of like put it out there, bam, that it's our denial of the allness of God, Muji speaks to it, and in such a way that a little more with a little more tenderness and guidance. It's just like, how do we guide one another to awakening to a higher and deeper inner truth? And that pain is that necessary thing that guides us if we decide to be guided, because we can stay in the pain, but that pain can guide us to an inner and deeper awakening and awareness of our inner truth. Man, nobody likes to talk about pain. You know, this is supposed to be a Sunday celebration service. This is supposed to be the place where we're uplifted and we're supposed to hear all the positive things and, figure, and do, do kumbaya moments. Nobody wants to be slapped in the face almost by Ernest Holmes telling us that if we're in pain or poverty or despair or whatever it is, that it's because we are in denial of the allness of God. But yet, how do we swallow that? A bit at a time, a little bit at a time. We begin to awaken from our denial. We begin to kind of say, oh yeah, you know what? I've been asleep, because the truth is that life is constantly evolving. And the pain that comes from our mistakes or our errors, they're really not mistakes or errors. They're just simply the way that we are unfolding in God and as God. And the bottom line is that there is a law of growth, and we grow or we go, and even in the going, there's growing. So it is inevitable for there to be that pain, that shift, that those moments where we kind of go, wow, this has been of my own making. My troubles are of my own making. My pain is of my own making. And the good news about that is that if it is of my own making, then my joy is of my own making. I get to shift, and instead of denying the allness of God, I get to recognize the allness of God. And I get to have that shift and engage in the spiritual practices that remind me of the truth of who I am, that there's nothing that separates me from the life of God. So either you believe that heaven is within you, either you believe that your life is the life of God, or you don't. But your actions and your pain level will show you what it is that you're believing and trusting in, and will actually be a guide to your awakening to a new life. And this quote here comes from Alcoholics Anonymous. And I love this. Pain is the touchstone to all spiritual progress. Pain is the touchstone to all spiritual progress. Now, my brother was a jeweler, and he was learning how to become a diamond setter. And, he would make all kinds of jewelry and melt things down and create and things of that nature. And part of his toolkit was a touchstone. A touchstone is actually a stone that when you rub any alloy on it, whether it's gold or silver or something fake, and then add a little drop of a chemical on it, it will tell you if it's real, if it's gold, if it's fake, if it's silver, based on the color in which that it turns. So when we then just kind of examine this quote a little bit more from Alcoholics Anonymous, that pain is the touchstone to all spiritual progress. You know, imagine rubbing pain on that touchstone and yep, you're on the road to spiritual progress. Like, this is real. This is real, that this is that place where your as it's been put before, your pain is your ticket, your admission ticket to a new life. Wow. If we could actually begin to see that pain is our admission ticket to a new life, it's the price we pay for a new life. Because if we actually utilize our pain and use it to remember the truth of who we are, if we have pain be that place where, oh, I'm in pain, what is it that I am thinking and believing that is creating such this discord, this thing that is not in harmony with who I am? That is the price that we pay. That is the indicator. That is the warning. It is the thing to remind us to get back to our spiritual practice, back to knowing the truth of who we are. So the pain is actually there, part of our human experience, to push us into our greatness, should we choose to see it that way, to push us into spiritual practice, so that as we're then in spiritual practice, the vision, God's vision of our life, the vision of our greatness will then pull us, will then direct us and guide us to our greatness, because that is already who we are. Pain can be your motivation for a breakdown, a breakup, or a breakthrough. It can be your motivation if we use it as such. It's our motivation to get back, our reminder to get back to our spiritual practice. It's our reminder that right where we are, God is. It's a reminder that we must be believing in separation, so that we get back into recognizing the allness of this power and presence that is right where we are, this indwelling power and presence. So I just want to open it up for anyone on our Zoom today that might want to ask a question about pain, or that may have a short, brief example of how pain has been a motivation for their breakthrough. Is there any such person this morning that'd like to speak to that? Now is your time. Just want to check it out, because I always love a good testimony. Okay, I see George in the chat is chatting that, what did he say here? Cause of pain is actually our resistance to our own growth. Great point there, George. When we are stuck, when we don't want to move, when we just want to stay in the status quo, our resistance is the pain to our own growth. And that's why when we use the pain, it's kind of like the reminder, oh, I'm stuck. Oh, I'm stuck. Let me engage in my spiritual practice. So with that, let me just take us into a brief spiritual practice and speak a word of blessing upon each and every one of us. How grateful I am in this moment to speak this word of blessing upon all listening, all watching, all present and accounted for. Grateful to pause in this moment and recognize the one power, the one presence, the one life that has created everything out of itself. This power and presence, this allness, this godness, this life force, this infinite intelligence, I see as love, as joy, as peace. I recognize it as harmony, infinite intelligence, abundance, clarity, divine order. And because this power and presence has created everything out of itself, I recognize it as my life. Recognizing that that which is true of God is true about me. That I am the unique and unrepeatable way that God has created and duplicated itself in human form. Therefore, I simply speak the word now, recognizing that this is the truth of all life, that all life is the reproduction, the duplication of God, the allness of God in human form, in and as the ocean, as the sand, as all plant life, as all animal life, as every planet, that it is the way God is expressing in the multitude and multitudes of forms. So I recognize the allness of God in this moment. And I speak a word of blessing, not only for the Downey Center for Spiritual Living, but for all life. That in each and every moment where we may be experiencing the discomfort of pain, that it is because the comfortable have been inflicted, and that those afflicted are then made comfortable. That it is when I am comfortable and resting on my laurels and believing in separation and smallness, that the pain is there as my guidance to know a deeper truth, a deeper awakening is happening. And so I know that each and every one of us now begins to say yes, and that we use pain as the indicator to dive into a deeper spiritual practice and a process of awakening to our spiritual magnificence. So we say yes. We say yes to pain as this fertilizer, if you will, as the thing that catapults us into our greatness, into remembering the truth of who we are, and that we don't become those who stay in it and stay in it and stay in it and stay in it and stay in it, but we indeed use it for our highest and our best. So giving thanks for the discomfort and the pain. We don't curse it, but we say thank you. Thank you, pain, for helping us to grow and not be stuck. And that when it enters our life, that it is just the warning sign. It is the reminder to dive deeper into knowing our life as the life of God. In this moment, we recognize the allness of God. The allness of God in, through, and as our life. And what a blessing it is to simply be in spiritual community. What a blessing it is to speak this word. What a blessing it is that now we have set in motion that pain is the touchstone to all spiritual progress. And that we say yes to our spiritual unfoldment. We say yes to our awakening to our spiritual magnificence. We say yes to creating a world that works for everyone. We say yes to life and yes to God. So for this and so much more, I give abundant thanks. And from this place of love, from this place of joy, from this place of alegría, of great cheer, I simply release the word now into the activity of the law, knowing that it is done individually and collectively. Praying, believing that it is done, I simply say, and now it is. And so it is. Amen.